On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina.
All right, everybody. I'm here with Blaine Taylor. Blaine, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate your time. Tell the listeners about yourself, if you would, please.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. My name is Blaine Taylor. Spent the last 7 years in professional baseball. Grew up playing the sport. Grew up in a small town, Visalia. We were just talking about it. Visalia Rawhide, single A teams, kind of the stadium you hoped your little league team would get to play on growing up. So yeah, a little small ag town. If you've been fortunate enough as a strength coach or any kind of coach to in the Cal League, you've probably made your way through Visalia. But yeah, I grew up in California, spent most of my life here up until 2017. I got hired by the Cincinnati Reds. Spent 3 years there, stepped away for 1 year to pursue firefighting. So I became a firefighter in 2020, well, right at the end of 2020, into 2021, spent about 11 months doing that. And I felt like I was on like this, I've always wanted to be on like a spectrum of helping others. I think that's something, the opportunity we have in this industry, in this career. But yeah, like kind of during COVID and those wild times, my little kids crying right now, 15-month-old son. I went on like the other end of helping people, like towards the tail end, like more of like the unfortunate side of life at times. Like that's typically what you're doing on firefighting calls. But yeah, I was up in Washington State. Didn't feel like I was really pursuing my purpose. Had always kind of had a love and passion for strength conditioning and helping people become their best selves on and off the field. More disciplined men, bigger, stronger, faster, more resilient, all the things. And then got back into baseball. Morgan Gregory, who was my director with the Reds, or coordinator at the time, but he's now the director of the Philadelphia Phillies. So we were kind of just chopping it up one day. I found out he got hired with the Phillies, and I was just telling him congrats. He was like, "Well, you should join me, brother. We need a strength coach." I was like, "Sign me up, dude. Let's do it." So I did that for the last 4 years. Wife and I just came back to California. I would call this more of a pit stop for now, but we're in South Lake Tahoe, California. I work at a place called Barton Rehab and Performance. We work with the ECHL. It's like a minor league hockey team for the Vegas Golden Knights. They're the Tahoe Night Monsters, and then we work with the Firefighting Academy, junior college, pretty much all the teams at the junior college, and as well as some Gen Pop stuff as well. But yeah, it's currently where we're at. This is the backdrop here, South Lake Tahoe. It's kind of barely snowing right now, but yeah, got to be on, man.
I was gonna make note of the beautiful background for anybody that's watching. If you're listening, you're missing out. It's really beautiful. Okay, we're gonna get into the baseball. We're gonna get into the private setting. I want to talk about the firefighting first. So you were up in Washington with that?
Yeah. So we were, COVID, we're all sent home. I was in Santa Cruz actually at the time. My wife and I had a place there. Just kind of little beach town. We were trying to find a little beach town opportunity during the weird COVID time. So we actually got evacuated because of the Santa Cruz lightning fires. Like the whole mountainside just lit up on fire. Everyone's evacuated, crazy smoke, and a lot of the Bay Area, I would say, got kind of moved around a little bit. But so we got evacuated, and I sort of felt like I should have been able to do more in that situation. Like it was kind of like a kick in the butt. Like, why don't I have the skill set to be helpful in this environment or these types of emergencies? So yeah, when we got back to Santa Cruz after they let us back in, I volunteered with the local Santa Cruz County Fire Department. And it's kind of crazy, even as a volunteer, they make you jump through hoops to get in. they want to make sure you have like the mindset, the discipline, and like the commitment to pursue something like that. So, I jumped through all the hoops, took all the tests, did all the things, got brought on. Literally, as I like got like suited, like got all of my turnout gear, like that's all like your SCBA mask, like all your firefighting gear, like the stuff that keeps you safe in a fire. Um, yeah, I literally had just gotten it all ordered, and then but I had been submitting like my scores and stuff up the West Coast because I was like, oh, maybe I'll just do this as a career and not just as a volunteer. So yeah, I got hired pretty quickly by a department up in Washington State, Olympic Peninsula, Silverdale, Washington. It's kind of like a little, it's like out in a rainforest, like a little hodunk town you've never heard of. But yeah, it's a rainy place. It's literally a rainforest, and it's dark, gloomy kind of weather for the most part. But um, yeah, I was up there, did EMT school, firefighting academy, was on shift for a few months. And then, after a shift, kind of realized like, I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my career. But, I'm not one to linger in something that I know is like not purposeful to me or not like something that I'm gonna love. I want to love, you know what they say, you never work a day in your life if you love what you do. My dad constantly reminds me of that.
Same.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, all right, I don't think I honestly got lucky. I got hired so quickly because they say like it's really hard to get hired as a firefighter. But just so happened this fire department was looking for like a fitness person. Obviously I had the Reds experience at the time and obviously others before that. But they were looking for someone to come in, kind of dual role, be a firefighter as well as kind of turn their fitness department around and sort of create like that kind of culture. So yeah, like that would have been a cool opportunity. And that's actually currently what I'm doing now. I'm training firefighting academies here in Tahoe. But so yeah, it's kind of an interesting turn of events. But I'm a believer, religious man, and I think our road is paved, and you follow that road, and you know when you're on the right road. But it's cool, like having those experiences, and they end up working out for you in one way or another. But yeah, that was
Yeah,
kind of cool.
the when you said you were in Washington, my wife and I were in the Olympic Peninsula. We were in Olympic
Oh,
National
dude, yeah.
Park just
I just
last weekend. And first of all, it was beautiful. Didn't rain a single day we were there, which at the end
you
of
got
my
lucky.
trip, I was like,
Yeah.
we were kind of hoping it would rain, but also
Okay.
like I'm sure all the locals were just super happy with the sun. There was legit 3 straight days of sun while we were there, but really
Yeah.
beautiful. But I can also see how even if the job was super rewarding to you, like how it could be difficult to just live up there. It's just very small.
Yeah.
I could tell even without the rain, like if it does rain, it's probably pretty gloomy. It's probably pretty gray,
Mhm.
borderline depressing. Like where I grew up, it's dark like that. It snows all the time. It's cold all the time. So like I understand that feel, especially now being in Phoenix in the sun all the time is
Oh
just
yeah.
absolute like total game changer. And then it's cool that like I think it's cool that you got that little bit of experience and then now kind of full circle you're getting to do that again in the private setting that you're in and still being able to work with firefighting and maybe it is secretly a calling and it's just in a different capacity, you don't know, but like that's kind of the journey, right? Is like you get to experience a bunch of different things in this field and like in my current role at my facility we have random things all the time. I've worked with bull riders and Aussie rules football athletes. And we've had firefighters in as well, where when I was in baseball, it was just baseball, like baseball, baseball, baseball. And I
Yeah.
think similar to your point, like you probably feel this too, right? Like baseball is like, that's what I'm meant to do and meant to be around. But in the meantime, it is cool to experience these other things as well. So,
The
um,
the other experiences also give you that perspective too of like, man, baseball is special.
correct. Yes. Sometimes good special, sometimes bad special, but it is its
No
own.
doubt. Yeah, and I think that you mentioned, like, it being tough, like, you could see how it would be tough to, like, live up maybe somewhere like the Olympic Peninsula. It was, like, I experienced it firsthand, and, like, you got a taste of it too. It's like, after being, I think, being kinda shaped by baseball, being in some of these big cities, like the electric environment of the crowds and the players every day and the weight room just blasting the roof off the place every day. The
Mhm.
Spanish music, whatever group of players is in there at the time. Um, it's like I think that's why like I was thinking about like movie stars and actors and like people in entertainment, maybe like musicians and stuff. It's like when they step out of the spotlight, how much that actually can affect them negatively in a way. It's like, you get used to that environment, and then you go to somewhere where like off grid, it's a shock. It's like a culture shock. It's a physical and mental shock. You're like learning a completely new way of life almost.
Mhm.
So Tahoe's kind of a blend of that. It's slow here, but it's also like there's some cool stuff going on. Like I said, like this is more of a pit stop. We'll be here for some time, but it's just a cool experience. We'd always wanted to live here, and we're kind of checking that box right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah,
And also, you mentioned in the beginning there your 15-year-old son. Congratulations on that. I'm sure that's also playing a factor into life and throwing
yeah,
you some curveballs as well.
yeah. It was it was a family move for now. We have a lot of family. Most of our family's in California, and then just getting his name's Rowan. Getting Rowan around the family, grandparents, everybody sort of getting to kind of see him grow up a little bit. But yeah, I know we're leading to some other questions, but my goals are still ultimately like baseball. But
Yeah, of course, of course. I think
yeah,
deep down, whether my wife wants to hear it or not, it's probably mine too. You know what I mean? But
I hear it all the time from her. It's like,
speaking
what?
of baseball, what is your best professional baseball story? Either something that makes you laugh, something you're proud of, something that you look back on very fondly. Just what sticks out in your mind the most?
Yeah. Sorry, I just pulled you off the screen here.
That's okay.
Where'd you go? Oh, there we go. Okay, I got a couple. The hurricanes in Florida. um, Hurricane Milton. I don't know if you were probably you are you how long have you been in Phoenix for? A few years?
Got out here. So 2023 was my last season with Boston.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So 2024, because I know Boston's spring training's down in
Fort Myers, yeah.
Fort Myers. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Clearwater, 2024, Hurricane Milton. That was wild because we knew the hurricanes. You kind of expect them, but the locals they all think it's kind of like a joke, and no one takes them too seriously. That one obviously wrecked Florida and wiped out Fort Myers for the most part at the time, and Clearwater too was like pretty trash. But just uh, the low A stadium, the Threshers, Clearwater Threshers, low A for the Phillies. It's like right across from the rehab complex and everything. But that was like a safe haven. So they put us in there. They told us like leave the apartments, come to the stadium. We're gonna keep everybody here. You can spend the night here. So we do, and then it ended up being a crazier hurricane than everybody expected. But they had a lot of like player development people on like the first level, like the weight room level, the athletic training rooms. There's like an electrical room down there. So the flooding got so bad that it actually started leaking into the stadium, like, and then it started filling up. And my wife's 8 months pregnant at the time, and like we're in the training room. That's basically where we're camped out for the evening, and then water's coming in. And we're like, okay, it's coming from the electric room. We gotta get the hell out of here. So we're finally like, the emergency response team like allows us to come up a level. We had our two dogs with us too. So they were like, worried our, people's animals are gonna like get in fights with other animals and this and that. But
Mhm.
anyways, they finally let us up. But it was just like experiencing like a natural disaster like that, like unfortunately, like even down the road people were negatively affected. Passing people didn't make it, like in apartments down the road and whatnot. It was like, okay, this was a serious thing and people didn't take it seriously enough. But that's kind of like a semi baseball story. I would say just like saving careers, man, is my goal. And not just saving careers, but like getting players through a season with zero injuries. It was always my goal as a strength coach every season. It's like, can we get through an entire season with zero soft tissue injuries? And we got close. Complex year, and my last year was in the rehab role in 2025. But before that complex year, we had one shoulder. Like, we made it through the entire rookie ball season with like no soft tissue injuries. But when I say saving careers, like, we had this program called the Gains program with the Phillies, and it was like at the complex. It was like a combination between the sports science team, the biomechanics team, and like strength and conditioning and pitching for them. It was like mostly like a pitching program. So like huge collaboration with this program, like bringing guys down who might have been trouble finding the zone or like lost a few miles per hour on their fastball or whatever, like metrics the pitching coaches or the organization expected from these dudes. Some players would just not do their due diligence in the off season, and they would show up under prepared and still get shipped out to the affiliate and then struggle. But yeah, we had this program back at the complex, like basically like a rehab, but not like for an injury, but to get them back to their former glory or above the demands of the game or above what they were previously capable of. So that was like a really sick program. We had a lot of success with it. It was basically like throwing the kitchen sink at these, getting a lot of details from, like I said, sports science and like the biomechanics crew and all that. Like getting a lot of information from the labs, like and pitching coaches, like getting nitty gritty and like cleaning up some movement patterns. But dude, just like balls to the wall, we're throwing the kitchen sink at these guys with, very aggressive, high risk programs, like weighted ball programs combined with like conjugate method, contrast training. Like, it wasn't like random stuff, like very thoughtful, but like I said, kitchen sink programs where it's just like, what can we create? What experiment can we conjure up to and like potentially have success with, like educated guesses basically, into give us 2 months with these guys. Can we get them to the point from throwing 92 miles per hour or even like 89 back to like 93, 94, maybe 95, 96, and like actually having some success with that. Like, I remember there was one particular player who, like I said, didn't show up to spring training. He showed up overweight, lost a ton of strength and power, like objectively measuring all that stuff from previous years. And like, what did you do, man? Like, you just didn't like train whatsoever. And I think he had just like only played winter ball, so lost a lot of like his physical qualities. It was like getting a call from the GM. We need this guy we do not want to release this guy, but he will be a release if like we can't do some of that. So we trust you guys, make it happen. And it was super cool to like objectively show the improvements that these guys were, that like this particular player, like to objectively show those improvements and then him go do it on the field too. It was like, okay, we're really giving some good value, some good objective data, and he's performing on the field, and like everything they asked of us, we made it happen. That doesn't happen every time. And sometimes you don't get the prescription right either. Like we can use like the force plate data and like different metrics to decide like where this guy falls in the force velocity profile, this, that, and the other. But sometimes we don't always get it right. But when you do, it's super cool, super rewarding, and it makes you feel like you know what you're doing.
So first and foremost, the hurricane thing is definitely baseball story and a minor league story. The fact that you were at the facility. I've been in a hurricane when I was a kid in Florida, and we had no power for 8 days afterwards. Like that, it's very serious when the real hurricanes come. But also the locals in Florida maybe a little bit crazy, and it's like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, very interesting that you had to all go there, and you had the dogs and your pregnant wife, and I'm sure other people's pregnant wives and dogs and animals and stuff were there. It was
Oh, it was a
probably
zoo, yeah.
Probably an absolute cluster. And then on the other side of that, like I can like agree with you. I can feel that same energy of like guy comes to you, maybe he's an afterthought in the organization, really pushes the training, ends up like becoming this guy, and it like prolongs his career for a little bit of time, or puts him on the radar when he wasn't necessarily on the radar before, or he becomes a trade piece and a really valuable trade for the organization. Like it I agree with you, you don't always hit on it and you would love to, but I appreciate your ability to like objectively be humble enough to say sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong, and when it feels right or when it goes right, it feels amazing. When
Yeah.
you get it wrong, I have lost sleep over getting things wrong with guys, to the point that I have sat down with the guy and I'm like, last year I told you to do this, I was wrong. And I'm telling you I'm wrong, man to man, coach to player. Like I have studied and I have a better plan for you now. So it's really rewarding when that does happen. It's really frustrating when it doesn't. And we're just giving them, I've always told players, like, I'm not here to make you worse. I'm giving you what I can right now with the information I have, in the hopes that it helps you get better. But sometimes either I'm not informed enough or I just get it wrong. Like I'm not
Yeah.
purposely trying to screw you over. So I can echo your sentiment with that one. And I'm sure it was really cool to see that those guys, and the one guy in particular you're talking about, just kind of make
Yeah.
some progress with that. But yeah, man, it's a part of the game, and there's so many guys that we work with that
Yeah.
you're not always going to hit it every time. And then, like you said, some guys show up to spring training and you're like, dude, you put in great work this offseason. And sometimes you're like, dude, what happened? Like, we gotta get this together. Like, and it's a wide range of things. And sometimes it's because they played winter ball, sometimes it's because they just got paid, sometimes they have family stuff that affects them. Like, you
Yeah.
don't know until they actually show up and they're in front of you. And then some of those guys that come in, they like look great and they perform horribly on the field. And then everybody's like, oh, he just bodybuilding, he's not actually playing baseball. It's like, you can't win sometimes.
Nah. Yeah, putting out fires, I would like maybe a quarter of the time, but
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you believe in within strength and conditioning that others think you are crazy for believing?
Mm. I think you might share some sentiment with this as well.
Yeah.
Uh, so like rock climbing background, gymnastics, jujitsu, like some of these like more off the wall, if you want to call it that, like disciplines that maybe most people or not a lot or not enough strength coaches like go and explore. And there's a lot to be gained. Like there's just so much more like in gaining experience, especially in your experience in those disciplines where you're putting in your own time, your own effort, your own training, and like putting yourself through the fire essentially to learn. Like that to me is so much more valuable than like a certification course or like a weekend seminar, anything like that where you're just paying for a piece of paper, or, or some knowledge. Like I won't like take away all credit from that stuff. Obviously they have a lot of the certs and they've been helpful in some regard, but it's the life experience in our own training. I think that's ultimately why most of us probably become strength and conditioning coaches. Just that love, like we know and experience it on a daily basis. We want to share it with the world, everybody, players, like anyone we work with, anyone we work with alongside. But more particularly, there's so much to be gained. It's like trying to throw Olympic weightlifting into a player's program like almost too late in their career, where it's like this player has never Olympic weightlifted. He's had a lot of success in pro ball already. It's like maybe we don't do cleans with this guy or try to do snatches with this guy. I'm kind of like teetering on the fence with that, with like stuff like rock climbing too. It's like I've been doing it for so long. I sort of developed the qualities like the tendon strength and the stuff needed to be a good climber, obviously. But I'm also in the line of thing is like, should we as organizations start building out our complexes with some level of like rock climbing walls, or like some of the tools that they use for grip training, or these things that objectively make rock climbers or gymnasts or anyone like kind of in that type of sport stronger in the areas they need to be incredibly strong in. That was like not just subjective things we're all looking at. It's like these people are objectively nasty at strength with their upper bodies. It's like, okay, so what's happening? The physiology behind that is there's more tissue resiliency. They're stronger. They're more durable. You don't see those types of issues, and they get some crazy positions. If you're on a rock climbing wall, you understand. It's like you're tested in range of motion in your hips, and you like mostly your hips, your ankles, and just like putting pressure through your toes like that. There's like a lot of benefits that can be derived from those things, and it's like trying to convince an organization to like build that stuff or like believe in it with like there's not a ton of information to show and like data wise, but if you do it long enough, you feel it as a person, as a player, like how that can impact you in other areas of your life, particularly if you're a baseball player, like especially a pitcher, even like your skin, like the skin, like pitchers get blisters and it can pull them out for weeks at a time, or it can send them to rehab. It's like maybe if we train a little bit differently or added some of these other components that you don't always get from like traditional weight room setting, we could kind of nip some of those things in the butt. So, and then the other thing, and have a pretty extensive background in Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting. So I believe in all that stuff, and I know it works. Obviously, strength leading to more power, or just being more resilient and bigger, stronger, faster. We all kind of know that works. Especially you see all of these major league organizations outfitting their weight rooms with Sorinex racks and weightlifting platforms, barbells. They're all over the place now. It's like no one's really scared of it anymore. I don't think. Maybe a couple organizations, but the flip side to that is what you find in martial arts, gymnastics, climbing, is the amount of stretching that these people do. And to me, stretching is a form of like isometric training. You're holding tissue, your tendons at end range for seconds, minutes at a time. And like the tissue quality changes if you give it enough effort, or you give it enough like workload. And that's obviously what we're doing when we lift weights. Like we need to balance that, in my opinion. It's probably not possible to balance it equally with stress training being like weightlifting or climbing or whatever it might be, or the sport itself, and then our balancing that with like stretching and mobility. Like we kind of just sprinkle that stuff in. I think there needs to be much, much, much more of an emphasis on that. And you see in sports like gymnastics, these are like some of the craziest feats of strength you'll ever see, but the amount of time they spend stretching in their warm-ups, in their cool downs, in the middle of their sessions, paired with sets, like I think it gets hated on because of some, maybe, my opinion, could potentially be faulty research. Yeah, you might fatigue the tissue a little bit before you go bench press, or before you do pull-ups if you hold stretches for too long. But give it 10-15 seconds but if you spend a minute to 90 seconds in like a true recovery session afterwards, like that's where the magic happens. And so like even with the Phillies, we do lifts with position players multiple times a week, typically with pitchers after a bullpen or after a game, depending on how much they threw, or maybe the next day. But spending giving true efforts and spending enough time each week, time under tension, stretching, that was something, we actually focused on heavily. And I think I was able to have some influence on that. But something I believe in, I don't think everybody agrees with or puts that same amount of attention on it. But I think our staff was able to keep a lot of players healthy because we put enough emphasis on that. And yeah, I think it could go a long way. it's a little experimental. It's interesting to me how something like that has lasted the test of time. Like we all kind of know it works. It's never not been around, but why is it still like underemphasized or even hated on? It's just like crazy to me. I've seen a lot of your videos too. Like, you post on Instagram and social media. It's like a lot of these like side stretches, like oblique lateral line stuff, like this fascia training essentially. And it's like cool to see you do that. I was like, yes, I'm stealing that. Like, I'm sure you've noticed the effects and how it's like helped you with rock climbing or maybe helped some of your athletes. It's good stuff. And I think it's underutilized.
So a lot there. First, I have had conversations with other people in baseball about climbing, so I don't think it's as far off or obscure as you might think. I first got into climbing right before we left Boston, and I would joke with our head guy that I was going to put climbing holds in the walls in Fenway and like just drill them into the bricks in the weight room.
Yeah.
And he was not opposed to it. It just, so, I mean, as you know, like you probably have to build into that and you have to build some resilience and you have to build some like tolerance. And there is the skill aspect, but I do love, you talk about like toe pressure and stuff like that, like feet, hands, body position, everything matters or you fall off the wall. So like knowing where you're at in space matters. And then like your beta might be different than my beta because we have two different body types. And then like most climbers are a lot smaller than I am, but I'm actually more mobile than a lot of them. So like, it's just it's a cool thing to like understand where your body is in space. And the same goes with jujitsu and gymnastics and everything. Like my wife and I have always talked, if we ever have kids, like we want them to do gymnastics at an early age, just for, spatial awareness and being in control of the body, relative body strength, all of that. So I'm there with you totally. I think it probably would need to be progressed accordingly, but at the same time, a lot of those like big pitchers are not going to be doing advanced V5 climbs. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have to do the beginner ones anyways, and they're going to do it and be like, dude, this is like all the areas I need for pitching, like my shoulders, my elbows, my forearms, my fingers, my legs. So that I can agree with you. And then the stretching stuff, I think as strength and conditioning coaches, like we always just say, oh, I'm a strength coach, right? So like everybody puts this crazy big focus on strength in the weight room because it's something we're all familiar with. But think about like conditioning. Conditioning is an afterthought a lot of times. Like to get better at conditioning, you have to actually like train hard at conditioning. The same for mobility, like in stretching. Like you want to get actual benefits from it, you have to actually do it and like put some concentrated effort into it. Same with speed work. Like a lot of times it's just like, oh, just go run a couple sprints and that box is checked. Like, no, you have to put actual like diligent work into things where like guys will spend a whole offseason going hard in the paint on strength. And like you said, they'll sprinkle in some mobility as an afterthought. Like if you actually put the time and the effort in, it does make a difference. I just don't think people are willing to. And I think the reason, to your point on like why hasn't it stuck, is like it's not sexy. Like it's just stretching your hamstrings for 60 to 90 seconds is dull, but like it works. Most of the time the dull stuff works, in my opinion. So
it's I think even like strength coaches, like even me at times, like, you kind of get away from some things, just life, or you get interested in other stuff and that kind of takes over. But it's tough to hold stretches for that long because it's a really uncomfortable. But like I said, like that's kind of where the magic happens. And seeing a player do like in gymnastics, call it like a vertical shin stretch. It's basically the couch stretch, but you're up against the wall and your shin's completely like glued to the wall. Like that's like a good objective test right there. It's like, can you get into that position and can you get your back up to the wall? If you can barely get off your spine, like up, like that's a huge red flag to me. It's like, okay, you got some crazy hip quad tightness going on right there. And I've seen that even freeing up like that area just by doing that particular stretch on a consistent basis can even open up some like ER, IR ranges of motion through the hips as well, and then really free up. Plus, you see a lot of asymmetries in the hips and the SI joints with rotational athletes. kind of how that works its way up the chain at times. But you kind of nip that in the butt in that region, like hip quad, like kind of hips area. You can kind of get rid of that anterior tilt and like the lower back stuff and how that can affect the shoulders. And it's like I said, it always kind of works its way up the chain, or it can negatively. But just something as simple as that, like legit periodized stretching and mobility, just as we phase out training, like our hard workouts, like it should be the same on both ends of the spectrum.
I agree with you on that one, actually. We used to have like not specific like stretching, but like mobility progressions of like, all right, level 1 is this. Can you do this? Yes, you can get here. Okay, the progression of this is this. Okay, when do we move to this? How do we know? So like totally there with you.
Yeah, I love that.
All right, everybody, that's going to conclude part 1 of this interview with Blaine. I hope you enjoyed this one. He's got a really cool trajectory and path that he's kind of followed. And he's got some ideas that maybe are considered quote unquote out of the box. But I took a lot of notes and I think it was really valuable. And I think the conversation was really good in this one. So I hope you enjoyed this one. 3 things that I took from Blaine in this part of the interview. Getting experience in different environments can help bring clarity to what you really want to do in this field. We have to be humble enough to admit when we are wrong. And relative strength and stretching may be more beneficial than we think for athletic performance. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.